The smartest guys around are about to break it down like they've won the game a million times.
Neither of us won. Marianne won. Omar, you were my winner pick. What happened? You should have won the game. What happened?
Ooh, I know, right?
Shannon, Omar. Yes, that's right. Survivor Know-It-Alls are back every time. I tell everyone, as soon as they come on the stream, I'm like, you have to do the dance. We're all doing this. I'm not doing this by myself. So we have such a huge episode. I am obviously not Rob Cesternino. I am Shannon Guss here while Rob is in NOLA with a live event. The live events have gotten lucky with some pretty massive episodes this season. I'm with an incredible guest, my amazing friend. If only. No, it's fine. You're also great. One of my favorite minds for the game, Omar Zaheer. Omar, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Rob, for taking off so we can take over the show. I'm so excited. And what an episode to be in charge of. We really love. You know what? They're not lucky in New Orleans. We are.
I do often feel that. I'm like, they got lucky, but like I've had some pretty good know-it-alls. Also, I'm lucky to be doing the know-it-alls. I'm lucky to be here. Thank you to everyone for being here in the chat against the Squid Game finale, which was, I remember I was like, oh, that's what when I saw the time, I'm like, that's unfortunate for the post-game show. And then I was like, wait, I'm the post-game show. So thank you for everyone who has chosen us in this, very, very competitive climate. But, news at the top of this hour, Omar, everyone's probable winner pick going forward. With the winner edit, I truly feel the character of the season, Emily Flippin, has been voted out of Survivor, which is shocking to me from a pure edit perspective. Like, how are you feeling about this right now?
I mean, I think the winner's edit is dead. I think that they are showing what happens as opposed to like pursuing a particular type of winner and hiding and shielding their behavior. Or I think they're really trying to be true to what happens now for the most part. And obviously there's some, play within there too. But I think multiple people could have the winner's edit. And I think Emily was definitely one of them. It's devastating to lose her, but also what an incredible journey that she had. From being what a complex story character. You could have somebody that's really outrageous and one note, but it takes a special person and a special character on Survivor to flip that narrative and grow and become something different. And that's what Emily did. And can you believe how much we know Emily? And she's 7th place. Like, I think that's incredible to show you the caliber of the season.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I feel from a winner edit perspective, she had the winner edit. And now, honestly, Jake has the winner edit. But also most of the new era winners, well, at least 2 out of 4 at this point, maybe 3 out of 4, depending on where you look, don't have winner edits. So, maybe then that opens the game up for everyone. But it is interesting with Emily. I mean, she's absolutely like the main character of the season, and she goes in this way. Caleb as well. Like I didn't expect him to go so early. Like he has this big shot in the dark moment and then just kind of falls to this big Reba monolith that, they're just like kind of big behemoth of a group. And Emily does the same thing. Like, I'd love to get into it because obviously Emily's move was so highly debated last week. And it's not like she was taken out as like a last kind of big bad. It's not like how she was sniped for being a threat. She was, but to go out on an idol play in such a complex way where it wasn't just like, again, like a big tiger being taken out by an idol. There's so many things at play. Like, she's getting taken out in that way. But the big thing for me is she falls to Reba again. That's how I feel. Because while Reba flipped on themselves in this episode finally and people thought it would happen, this was not, I felt, a true break. If it was a true break, Emily is still in the game because they split on D. That's something they had the capacity to do, and they choose not to. In fact, they choose to put themselves, someone like Austin, in danger on the bounce back of an idol that they know that she has, and they know that she's at least a little bit suspicious. They put themselves in danger, and they put Emily in remarkable danger in order to protect D and not split on D. So for me, it's like the relationship of Emily's decisions, which from the swap have been at every single turn to enable Drew and Austin, and they do protect her here, because Julie is the vote, but how much do they protect her if she's that expendable, if they refuse to split on an ally that is much more obviously a high priority to at least Austin, and Drew is going along with that as well. And for her to go in that way by enabling the structure, I feel like kind of is an indictment on what I was seeing strategically from her in the last couple of weeks about, I mean, whether she could or she couldn't, I'm sure we'll discuss, but like going along with this as a system did not behoove her in the end.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I feel like you asked a leading question, but I'm liking where the leading question was going. So I agree.
Tell me what I want to hear.
I think that this is such a fascinating. Emily had a confessional tonight that said literally, the decisions I've made up until now will either be proven correct or proven false based on whether or not I'm protected. And the interesting thing is she was kind of protected in the sense that they did go with her plan, but allowed her to be the backup vote, allowed her to be targeted. And, you know, Drew was clearly the one protecting her a little bit more, but Austin was super ready to let her go at this point. So I think that in the grand scheme of things, you know, I was a little bit more confused about what the correct answer for her gameplay was before. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, you're right. Like the power of Reba is what's deciding how this game is playing out. And everybody else seems to just be playing a role in it, but not be the driving force. And I have said for a few weeks now that I feel like, you know, there's two ways you can go when you're up against something like Reba. It's either, you know, infiltrate and divide, or it's form a counter group. And I feel like forming the counter group has more short-term risk, but potential long-term gain. But, you know, going with the flow, like you might just get picked off and then really you might kick. I feel like most players would just kick themselves for not trying if they ended up being 7, 6, or 5. So I think that my style of play would not be to want to leave my fate in the other people's hands and like take control and be like, okay, Reba, if you say you're willing to turn on each other, let's show that now. Show me, as Cass once said, show me the blood of your tribe mate before we can move forward. Do you remember that?
I don't, but Savage. I mean, not Savage. She spent some time in the jury villa with Savage, but yeah. Okay, so yeah, I mean, look, I agree with you, and I was screaming for Emily to make the move last week, and I knew it was risky, and I knew maybe she couldn't. And then we have to go back. If she couldn't do it, then was she being snowed by Reba? Did she enable them too long? Did she have to go back even further? And I will always go back to the Kelly vote, because if anyone could have rallied Bello, it's Kelly. If Katurah is kind of hopping off the safe space she had with Reba, for anyone, it's Emily having the information to say, Kelly's the boot, and maybe Bello actually do that for Kelly. So I'll always go back to, you know, where there was a time for Emily, because going along with the system in a very difficult way, coming from Lulu, which was hard, working with Bello, which was difficult, losing her vote at the final 9, I don't dismiss any of that. But working with the system in the end did not benefit her as it should have, because she was, you know, not at the top of their priority, and she was relying on them. And that's why I always talk about agency. It's like, there's, as you're saying, there's often risk with like taking the shot to gain some sense of agency, and it is like a short-term risk, but then to have the ability to make the decision, something she even speaks about when she goes on the trek, which I agree with, that to me is better than being reliant. And maybe there's manipulation you can do on relying on other people, but she didn't achieve that because she wasn't the priority for them, and that's why she goes home. Like, I really want to say that she doesn't go home in a unanimous idle play. Like, that's not all it is. There's so much meaning here in the decisions that have led to this point, with Reba being emboldened again. So then I look at it and I think, this is how I'm trying not to take it personally, Omar. Yeah. But here's how I feel. All I want in life, and I feel I ask for so little, is for people to come over the top of split votes, and people to come over the top of broken and do it. No, the split vote, yes, we'll talk about it. Crazy, the no vote was split, and we'll talk about that as a second to this, which is what was, I think, even better. When people break apart and you have the possibility of doing a plurality vote, do it. Well, situationally. But in this situation, do it. Last week I thought, do it. Here is the move for Emily. Here's the move for Emily, Katurah, and Jake, and I'm harsh on all of them for not doing it. 3 votes over the top of what you think is a 2-2, 3-2-2, you have the majority. Well, it actually would have been a 3-3-1, which is fine, because it would have been their 3 votes on, I think, D, right? Mm-hmm. And then there are going to be 3 votes on Julie, and you, like, Julie anyway would have played the idol, but you decide your 3 votes with the revote. So your 3 votes are so powerful here. And what there's a few reasons you do this. For Emily, no bounce back on an idol that they're not splitting on you. You don't break the majority on their terms if you can help it. You break it on your own terms. And what do they come back to now? I mean, even if Julie goes, they're coming back to Austin, Drew, and D all together. And obviously, Julie didn't even go for Emily because this was so much of a risk. So now if they had done this and taken out D, hopefully flushed an idol, they don't know who has the idol. So if they're putting that pressure on Julie, if she has something, she'll play it. D is being blindsided, so she's not going to play it. So whichever Reba has an idol, they've got 2 shots now taking out an idol. flushing it, taking it out of the game either way, if they can, if it's there. And you come back to Julie, Drew, and Austin. And you're 3. You actually have the majority. You're running it down. I'm really mad that they didn't do this. I'm taking it personally.
Yeah, totally. And I think the one thing we don't really know is how close was this to leaving for tribal? Because I think that does play a difference in terms of who you can have. Like, because Katurah was nowhere in the frame. Like, I wonder if Katurah was off on a walk doing confessional when they're talking about these things. But also historically, from what Emily has known so far, Jake and Katurah, it's hard to corral them into taking the gamble. But now they've talked about
Bruce. Now he's gone, work together.
Yeah, I know. And they are, to their credit, they are starting to talk about where to go. But it seems like Emily's attachment to Drew and Austin stopped that kind of a move. Like, she's relying on them to move forward. And I think that what you're saying is exactly right. Like, even if you're relying on Austin and Drew, don't rely on them to a fault where you don't see the opportunity of D, because it completely removes a variable for you. That's an obstacle for you, because like you said, they're willing to turn on Julie, but they haven't proven they're willing to turn on D. And now it actually benefits you to kind of do that. But I also want to wonder where down the road, how Emily got here. And I think that if you look at the way she started the game, she's starting the game on a tribe where she doesn't fully gel with them. They're not on board with how she's interacting and vice versa. She's very combative and she's kind of taken that, but it's probably a very psychologically distressing thing to be surrounded in a very unstable environment of Survivor, deprived of everything, with a bunch of people that you don't trust or get along with, even to some extent. And then you get to Drew and Austin, who offer you that safety in that home, and you feel included and you feel part of that. It's hard not to, it's like you kind of want to put down the fighting gloves and be like, I can rest now. But I think as early as the J Maya vote, there was clues that Emily's place within Reba was not there. Why does it benefit Emily for Caleb to go home? She wants to protect him, but they are like, no, we have to get Caleb out. Mm-hmm. And that's a very early clue. And I feel like from that point on, she kind of deferred to the Drew and Austin plan. And I think that to her detriment, ultimately, at the end of the day, was not being able to, she would hear the voice inside her head, I need to do something, but she wouldn't do it without them. And I think that was the missing link for her.
Yeah, if you think about how Reba have been enabled to this point, and I still see this as Reba's game. I mean, most of the Rebas, well, at least, okay, Drew and Austin go for the target that they want to. They get the numbers to do that. And then even get the secondary split going home that they want to. D gets her actual target out. While I feel like Katurah and Jake are benefiting off people breaking, just broadly on that, I still think this is fully being controlled by Reba. So what's enabling them to this point? 2 things: Bella RMS and Emily, and singularly Emily, I feel. And it's at every point she was a linchpin, possibly to have numbers at a point with, with Caleb, which, she didn't know people as much. She was in the post swap, and no one would begrudge her that. But, through to the Kelly vote, and then at the final 9, it's would she have? Obviously, seemingly not. And she didn't have a vote. Last week, no. And this week as well, it's just so painful to me to watch her enable a pair who were not splitting on her. They had the numbers to split. If this was a true 5-2, then D has 2 votes, she's gone home. So that was just really painful to me. And I also think just relying on Reba breaking it all, this was so messy for them it was overly questioned. It was dramatic. It was kind of romantic. Who wants to rely on these pain conversations where other people decide your fate? Other people decide Julie or Emily. Other people decide, should we flip or not? To me, it's just putting too much into other people's hands, but it's hard because she did start on the back foot. And you're saying from a game perspective, I think that it's really hard to recover from that. And as you're saying, from an emotional perspective, it's she finally found her home, but that home needed to be in itself deconstructed. So I think it's really hard. I mean, I think looking at last week, because that was such a highly debated decision.
I think that was the point for me personally.
I wanted her to flip. I said it then, and I feel pretty validated, even though she doesn't get all the votes. I still think there wasn't enough to rely on in Reba, and I think that's been proven. But she goes out on an idol play here. Would the other 7 have been better? You have to look if she votes out Julie last week with an idol, she comes back. Can those 4 keep it together? Again, we've said, is there a risk? Ironically, she actually would have taken out the idol with Julie because Austin didn't have both. You would have accidentally hit an idol there, but there was still the risk they could come for her. Bruce would, would he have, he clearly wouldn't have played an idol. Would he have been a bit of a target? Would we have tried to go back to some sort of split on Bruce and Jake? Would he have because kind of losing Jake should have opened up the game. And it did for Reba, but they again were still enabling these Reba systems. So I think that there would have been outs at another final seven, the final seven where she makes the move last week, it's still bad. You know, like I think that she got to the point where you're either like taking a big risk against this like really suppressive system, or you are, you know, relying on them at this point to her detriment. And that's not great. But last week I would have taken the shot, had it in my hands. If you go home on it, I would have rather had the control and try to take an out at worst, or maybe not at worst, but like as an option, or actually try to control it and see what you can do against Reba. So I would have chosen that, I feel.
I agree. And I think for Emily, if I'm looking at the post-merge votes, the time was not J Maya. The time was not the split tribal council, because Drew would be the one that she would have to turn on. And Drew is the closest person to her and is protecting her. Yeah. I think Kelly was also too soon for me. I think that the time was Bruce. And because she had all the information, she's the one that could have flipped things. And then if you go into that final seven without Julie, you still think Austin might have one or two idols. And you see that Austin, Drew, and Dee could be very strong. You could then keep that as a galvanizing factor to keep the Bellows on board with you. Bruce and Katurah are fighting. Jake is a lone wolf looking for somewhere to go. I think that would have opened up the game. Yeah, I think that would put her at the center. And sure, she could have been a target, but this was not necessarily better. So I think that was the thing. But then there was this reliance on Drew and Austin that prevented a move like that, because that's so antisocial to go against your two closest allies. But I think the move was to pivot more towards Jake and Katurah. And even that was her downfall this week, potentially, is not recruiting them for an alternative plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think if she had all the information, and so much credit to Drew and Austin for snowing her, I do think Kelly, like, it's early, but early rather than missing the opportunity, she's going to end up losing her vote next time, which is unforeseeable. But Reba is so powerful, like, who knows? And Bello is so messy. Who knows when you can get them together? And Kelly was just such a rallying factor for Bello in the way that no one else was. That was like basically her one chance to have Katurah do something for this group. I feel like, and maybe Katurah wouldn't have even, maybe that's like, it speaks to how difficult it was to wrangle this group. But I think for Kelly more than anyone, and she had that information as part of that blind side. So that's a major way that she enabled Reba to keep getting to this majority. Once you've missed that because you don't have the information, now it's like, now you have to take bigger risks because you've missed an opportunity. That's why you have to take the risk last week. And you definitely do it here. Like, there is no downside to this 3-2-2 or 3-3-1. And it wasn't even discussed. Like, it's so hard for me how much he was in Drew and Austin's pocket. Even on that, okay, so she's going to go home on a unanimous vote split. No vote split. And unanimous idol with no split. And I like, the last time we were here, we talked about, well, what if Caleb plays a shot in the dark? Emily could be, could have been the collateral. I'm like, but she wasn't. So she doesn't want to give up that social capital in terms of, playing something as a split. And I was very high on it. This week, firstly, not a vote against a shot in the dark is crazy to me. Let alone this whole come over the top, because it's a small risk for sure that Julie will have, and then, well, she has a shot in the dark, but play and then hit her shot in the dark. But usually we're like, oh, is it worth it socially? Like, yeah, you're voting for D. Like, you guys are against each other. So that's nothing. Maybe she thinks that that's pointless because D would be one vote for her because she thinks D and Julie are voting for each other. You still take it to a tie. Jake and Katurah maybe vote out D. Julie and Austin are voting for you. Let's put Drew to it. He's really been between it. He might do it. I can't, we can talk about a proper split against an idol, but with Julie coming and being so clearly aware, like, how was there no split here? I'm not high on this now.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to kind of go player by player in terms of like what their optimal move was, because the thing and what they knew based on what we had. So I think for Emily, like, she, knowing what she knew, she sees Julie come to her. She sees that Julie is paranoid. Like, why would Julie be paranoid and trying to now, as somebody who's been so Reba, all of a sudden wanting to turn on Austin? Like, there has to be some sort of clicking in the brain being like, she knows something more, or something's going on that I'm not aware of. And I feel like in that position, when you're the alternate target, you have to just go for it, because most people are going on Julie anyway. And I feel like a lot of people were also incentivized when Caleb went home to do that, because there were so many votes you could easily disguise. Like, nobody would have known if Emily casted a rogue vote at that point in time. It could have been anyone. But in terms of like Emily, I think it's clear she should have voted for somebody else. I think for D as well, I actually disagree. Well, I kind of disagree with her also voting for Julie, because it gives, if she's concerned that Julie's going to take out her other number one, the way to protect against that is to also cast a vote for Emily. And people had already been saying all over the beach, Dee will not vote for Julie. We have to blindside her. We have to leave her out. But then to like side with Drew and Austin, it makes you look like you're more with them anyways. So I think that being seen as a 2 with Julie is not as bad for Dee as being in the larger group. And also it protects against Austin going home. And Jake and Katurah, I could also see a reason for if they can identify that Dee is maybe a bigger threat than Julie, because if they're willing to sacrifice Julie is not the biggest threat anymore.
It's not about her being the bigger threat. Even if Julie's the bigger threat, it's about making sure that Drew and Julie come back to the beach together. You don't want Austin, Dee, and Drew to come back as a 3 because they could keep it tight. And then what are you doing? Are you voting out Emily? Because that feels like the suppressive system that they want to go with. Katurah and Jake are probably just enabling that. And then what? Then we'll find out what they decide for you at 5. Or you decide this and you keep, and hopefully Julie plays anything she has because she thinks the votes are on her. And you come back to a really fractured Reba and you decide, and you probably don't want to go to the end with Emily, but that is absolutely future Jake and Katurah's problem. And you can get rid of Emily down the line when you're now controlling the game. Like for Jake, who was like, I was a background character and now I'm a, like supporting character. I'm like, you could be the protagonist. Like you could make the move right now.
And
so
yeah, like he is just also just as a side note, I agree with everything you're saying. He's an incredible character in that he can offer so much range, like from being on the bottom to the, all over the place. He's the goon, he's the underdog, he's everything. And I love that about Jake.
He's winning the season on the conventional winner edit that doesn't exist anymore. He's my winner pick. And honestly, I'm feeling like from a pure edit perspective, pretty good about it. But
what's his path though in the game right now?
It's not about the path. Like honestly, I came out of the episode, I'm like, that was good for Jake. And then thinking about it, I'm like, no, it wasn't. Like you just think that because like Katurah and Jake got so much like new era, new like phase of us, and I'm like, I'm gonna now start putting the pedal to the metal, like play the game. I'm like, but you did it. You still did what Reba wanted. Just like you. Anyway.
Yeah, because I think he's in a rough spot now because he has Katurah and he has Drew probably at this point, and Drew and Julie are warring, but now you have this side that could be Austin, Dee, and they can swing and be strong, and that's Austin, like Dee, very dangerous for them.
Yeah, I think that it's again very constricted in a way it just simply didn't need to be. That 3, like again, it's a credit to Reba that they seem to have the relationships with the 3 non-Rebas rather than them coming together against Reba. Because even like, okay, so looking at this, even for like a split, I mean, it's interesting you speak about Dee voting for Julie. It's like, I'm going to be loyal. It's like, Dee, you were the split. This is why Julie had the opportunity to take out Austin. And we can talk about Austin's decisions in that. But they'd be thinking like, okay, well, if she's voted for Austin, then at least there's going to be Dee's vote on Emily, who'd never vote for Austin. You wouldn't think would vote for Julie. And there didn't seem to be communication around her doing that. Even with that for Austin, I have concerns. We'll definitely talk about this for Austin because it was a big episode for Austin too. So for Dee, it felt like it was this really loyal thing. It didn't make sense. In terms of like splitting the vote against an idol for Emily, this is how I actually got to the 3-2-2. It was like, she should split on a shot in the dark. She should like try split on an idol. Like, could she go to Couture and be like, what if Julie has an idol? Like, she clearly knows she's going. Should we split 2 votes? Because like if Reba are all against us and they're lying to us, like we've lost anyway. So maybe we should just split our 2 votes. And then take it to a tie where again, I think if it would be a tie, 3 votes would be on Emily. Like in this situation, they voted 2 votes for Dee on the split. If Julie's played an idol with her 3 votes and their 2 votes voted for Emily, so it's Dee versus Emily. So Julie and Austin are voting for Emily. Jake and Katurah are voting for Dee. So again, you take it to Drew, but let's take things to Drew at a time. Let's put Drew make a decision. Like that would be even better, but it's not great. It shows how much she did not have the agency within this group to push for a split, to be like, hey guys, Julie seems worried. What if she has an idol? She doesn't know Julie has an idol, but what if she does? I'm in a quote unquote showdown that I don't want to be in. And she didn't even have the agency, but she actually did have leverage, the leverage of being able to come over the top. So the lack of agency to even in this group push for her own split or go for her own split or have the numbers of a group who would choose her for Drew, someone like even at a tie, does not speak well to this position. I think it speaks to the fact that you come over the top. So
yeah, I think we're also I feel bad because we're talking about all the decisions Emily should have done differently. We love Emily. She's a great player.
But this is my job.
But yes, and I think I have 2 more things I wanted to ask you about with respect to what Emily did. The first one I think we can both agree on was, coming out of the Bruce blindside, I get like you're very excited that really was Emily's ability to convince him to not use the idol. And that's like, I think that that was counter to what was in her best interest, but it still showed off a strategic chop of some sorts. But I think that telling the group that you duped him was like bad for one, because if that's your move, say it later. Don't reveal it to everybody now. And two, part of your move was actively throwing Julie under the bus, and you're telling her
Really
that
hates that.
at the very beginning of the game, like or the episode. I feel like that was really not a great that was a loose lips sink ships, you know? And the second part was when she found out from Julie, where she's acting all suspicious of, hey, Jake and Emily, do you want to flip? I think that her telling Drew was the wrong thing to do, even if she was loyal to Drew, because if anything, that will get him to get off of the plan and onto something else, which may not benefit you. I think that's your opportunity, like you said, to create a plan C, D, or E and subvert it by putting some votes on D. Like you said.
I mean, let's talk about Julie in that, because Julie goes to them and in like, you know, the hope of preserving her idol, of doing something here. And I actually quite like this.
Same. I loved it.
But I think there was something missing. She's like, I'll go rogue. It's like, rogue with what? She says they don't know I have an idol. You need to tell them about the idol. You need to explain to Emily, we have a common goal. Neither of us want you to be idled out with my idol, because then I play my idol and you're out of the game. And that would incentivize Emily to do what she should do anyway. And it's interesting. I've talked to her. I'm like, is this a prisoner's dilemma? It's not, because you don't have to, like, for Emily, you don't have to rely like, oh, what am I trusting Julie to do? You actually can have the full numbers. You should not do this with Julie. Julie should think she's going home so that you can flush the idol, because the worst part of enabling Julie at any point in this plan would be for her to not play the idol. You'd hate to come back to that. But if you can still push that pressure, and she's likely to play it out of like that extreme fear and then go over the top with the plan that she should have done, there's so much incentive there. Like, she doesn't need to worry about Julie, you know, having an idol and voting for her if they've taken away Julie's power, which is actually getting all the votes on her to rebound. Once that's taken away, Emily actually has the power, and she doesn't have that fear. So there was a lot of leverage for herself in those votes. There was a ton of fear in the risk of Julie playing her idol and all the votes being on her. Like, that was such a risky thing for Emily. There was so much incentive here for Emily to flip clearly regardless. So when Julie comes to her, I like that, because it pushes that incentive and could give her the opportunity, if she has like balls of steel, not to play the idol. She probably will do anyway. But I think then you have to push the idol to be like, when I say I'm going rogue, this is like a real threat for you. Like, you understand that, like,
I
you need
agree.
to do something.
And actually, I just thought of something. If Julie says, I am playing my idol tonight, that protects her in many ways, because either, I mean, if she's going to play it, she's going to play it and get it out and be safe, but she can get who she wants out anyways. So like, if she's pushing for Austin, I mean, all she has to tell Emily, make a white lie that's based in truth. Like, Dee told me I'm going home, and her and Austin don't want to do it, but they don't have the numbers because all four of you are against me, but they're a really tight group. Like, we need to do something. And then if you're in Emily's position, you now know that 4 votes are going on Julie, or potentially 3 or 4. And you and Jake could swing and put 2 on Dee, even if Julie plays the idol and you're not going with Julie's plan. But if you get Julie to vote with you against Austin, you can then choose Austin or Dee and have 3 votes on Austin if Julie goes with the plan, or she votes Austin and the 2 of you vote Dee, she plays her idol and Dee's gone in a 4-2-1 or 4-3-2-2 or whatever it might be. So I think that I really think that Emily should have held, and Jake should have held that information at that point in time, because they could have actually had all the power with that information. But I do like that Julie was thinking kind of beyond just, let me just play this idol and, you know, save myself and keep Reba, or the Reba 3 now intact. I like that she realized that maybe I need to flip on Austin. Maybe I need to take out Dee's number 1. I like that she was thinking it through. But what do you think was the right decision for her? Was it voting out Emily, or was it voting out Austin? Because I think I could see it either way.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of working with Julie, I would shut Julie down, because I think you really need her to flush your idol and then do your own thing. Like, you literally have the power in this fractured group for your 3 to win out. So I wouldn't be working with Julie, just because I think giving her any kind of inch to not play her idol, unless you're going to try and split it to put the primary on her, so that she would go in that way. But even then, like, I don't think you want the primary on her. Like, I think you really want her coming back idol-less with Drew. So I think you're flushing it in fear, not you to like having the primary vote on her. So you're putting that on her to really like sit with it and be scared of it, and then just voting out Dee. For Julie, in coming to them, she does risk an ally like D, because they could always do that in kind of spooking them. If they want to come over the top, she does risk that. But if she's really trying to hold on to her idol, she might prefer to have an idol than D in the game if she sees kind of their path diverging. So I think that that's okay. And I think that, you know, she was trying something to save it, which in a different world with that incentive might have worked and they might have gone with her. You know, there's also, obviously, if she's definitely going to play her idol out of that fear, I think you don't tell anyone. For me, this is just to save the idol. You want to be able to like completely decide the votes, not have them come over the top with their own agency, take out an ally like D, if you're definitely going to play the idol. But I think she was trying to save her idol, and I think that that's okay. In terms of...
can I touch on one thing there?
Yeah.
I think I disagree with telling... I feel like George now. I'm going to disagree with you.
No.
I feel like... I feel like
Am I
Emily...
yelling? No.
I feel like Emily should have tried to convince Julie that she was willing to work with her, because it was about her safety that night. If you get Julie convinced that you're working with her, even to some degree, you could even say, let's not involve Katurah, use your idol. Well, like at that point, she didn't know she had an idol, but if that information was out there, you know, use your idol. 4 votes are going on you, or 3 votes are going on you. We'll nullify them. The 3 of us will go on Austin and keep Katurah out of it, because we can't let the plan leak. That way she plays her idol. And now Julie's vote is definitely not going on you. And I feel like in her position, she needed Julie to not be going after her, not voting with her. But when she played like kind of like, I'm not really sure, or even shutting down, that means that behooves Julie, I think, to vote out somebody that's not willing to work with her.
I think the issue with saying to Julie, like, we're gonna help you, but you have enough votes on you that you have to protect your idol, is that D doesn't want to vote for Julie. So it's like, if 2 of us are with you, and so is D, that's already like a majority. And she thinks Austin doesn't even want to vote her out. Like, she thinks that Emily and Jake and Katurah and Drew are the problem. So once most of them are coming over with her, I think it would give her a lot of power to not play her idol. But at the end of the day, if her vote's coming for you, like, it doesn't matter if you have the plurality. I would kind of keep it simple like that. Like, I would never go to a point where I'm voting for Julie knowing in a showdown, like the fact that she said showdown, knowing that it could bounce back on me, knowing I don't have the agency in this group to push my own split, not even like splitting the vote for a shot in the dark. It was just so risky. And there were just, as we're saying, many other options. We can talk through the layers of them, but they all existed. And there's a very, very simple plan, I think, in terms of like a 3-3-1 or a 3-2-2. But you mentioned in terms of Julie going for Emily or Austin here. Julie's in a bad spot, you know, like either one. It's like, what are you coming back to? It's not great. And like, I don't want to put too much on Julie for that. Like, basically, she can't help that she's beloved. It seems like it's just, she's mostly such a threat. She does sniff out Drew at the beginning. Like, she seems to, like, you know, have the suspicion on him. She does have the relationship with D that warns her, maybe even against D's own interests, which we can talk through. And like, even in keeping the idol, which is so antisocial, it's very awkward. But like, either it's like we're all kumbaya, in which case it shouldn't matter. We did all find this idol together, though Austin put in a lot of work. Or you're coming for me, in which case it's necessary. Like, the only issue with keeping the idol is if it pushes you from being kumbaya to being the target. And I don't think it did that. I think she's protecting against something bigger where she seemed to need it. So I don't want to put too much on Julie other than just being that loved to be a threat. So in this position where she's in a terrible spot, I actually think that voting out Emily, which is a congenial vote, which is, again, enabling actually a system against you, is fine, because you come back, you do it for D. You come back with D in the hope of being like, I did this for you. What are you doing for me? Me, you, and Austin, can we do something? Like, hoping to rely on Austin. If she votes out Austin here, who can also, you know, he can play an idol, and actually it would be great to flush that idol, and actually leaving him in with the idol is one of my biggest issues with voting for Emily, but you hope that he would flush it. If you keep him in, if you vote Austin out, you come back with Emily, Jake, and Katurah, who at one point might be emboldened to work together. At some point, it's going to happen. It's not.
Well, they kind of started it.
Well, I mean, I don't know. But like, those 3, and then D's mad at you, and Drew's been against you, you're probably the consensus vote. So in that, taking out Emily gave her a chance of not being the next consensus vote. In that incredibly dire circumstance, I think that this more congenial vote was better for her.
Agreed. I think Emily, you know, at first I was, okay, so I love Austin, so I didn't want him to go home, but I loved Emily too, and she went home. But I think that everyone's so likable. But I think that Austin actually, from a story perspective, would have been like the most poetic ending to the episode, given the whole, you know, the romance and everything that happened that led up to that point. But I do think that the better move for Julie was to vote out Emily, because Emily was clearly not willing to work with her. If you vote out Emily, you're burning D, and right now you do need a friend. And Austin is kind of being tugged between Drew and D, and that's really what she needs is D to be able to pull over Austin into the next round of voting to have a chance to make it through. I think she's too exposed if she gets rid of Austin here. But was Austin's, there's so many individual decisions.
There's so many. Oh my God. My head.
Through.
I can't
Should
even
Austin, I know, should Austin have played the idol? Because I think he should have, because he knew his name was coming up. Whether it made sense for Julie to do that or not, he had intel that Julie was pitching his name. And I think in that situation, your idol expires next round. I think you should play it.
Yeah.
But I had an idol and gave it away too. So who's to say?
Look, there was a few things. I thought he was definitely playing it. I actually was writing in my notes. I'm like, damn, flushing your own idol sucks. But then flushing your own idol to then need to flush your other idol really sucks. And then he didn't play his idol. Then I thought he was going home. I'm like, you deserve this. You deserve this for not playing your idol. And then he didn't. Truly an amazing episode. Every part was very, very shocking to me. But yeah, so firstly, he thinks they have a split. I'm like, why didn't they split the vote? They could have come over the top and just voted out Emily. But I think that you want the votes on Julie, so she has to play the idol. So you want a split. They think they have a 1 vote split due to D, who's now being so covertly trying to look loyal to them, that she's taken away their split, really put Austin in a lot of danger. Or if Austin plays his idol and it's a 0-0 revote, she could be in danger. At that point, they could vote out D. She opened it up in a way that she was meant to be the split. So firstly, doing nothing here, even with D being a split, you could throw your own vote on Emily.
Right.
Just because even with D splitting. So I'm trying to in the moment, trying not to confuse you, but even with D splitting, so then it would be 1 vote and Julie plays an idol. 1 vote on Emily, 1 vote on D. So Austin and Julie are voting out Emily. And Drew, again, it's on Drew. No, wait. Yeah. So even if Drew is voting out Emily, no, yeah, it's on Drew. It's on Drew again. Jake and Katurah probably vote out D, maybe, or they don't. I don't know. It puts her at some risk, even though at some point they're not doing it.
Katurah said in the episode, when she's talking to Jake, I think a lot of the decisions here are being made by Katurah, but they're kind of coming down to her. But for what we've seen, she hasn't been driving the primary gameplay, but where she's one of those swing states where her vote does matter. And when we hear her talking to Jake, she seems like she wants to work with Jake at this point. And I feel like that seems like the truest version of what her reality is without hearing it in a confessional. And she's saying to Jake, it's got to be Julie, then Emily. So I think in that situation, for some reason, D is just doesn't seem to be on her radar. If D was on her radar, why not say to Jake at that point, D and Julie have to go next? And so I think that's why on a revote, if it's a 1-1, I kind of think Emily goes.
Sorry, I actually misspoke. It wouldn't be D Emily. There's a lot of revotes here. I apologize. It would be Austin Emily. Julie's voted for Austin.
Austin Emily.
Yeah, so that's why so in that way, Jake is voting out Emily. Sorry, not Jake. See, I'm getting confused. Okay. So Austin and Emily are the votes. Drew is voting out Emily.
Yeah.
D is voting out Emily. Julie is voting out Austin. Now it's actually up to Jake and Katurah. Do they vote out Emily? Probably, but they shouldn't.
So, yeah.
But don't put it in their hands. But so my notes are different from my brain. I'm like, okay, it's Austin against Emily.
Yeah.
On the revote, you think you throw a vote. Even within that, I would really be playing that idol. I don't think I can put this down to bravery more than stupidity. Sorry for being harsh, but you're coming down to the last time you can play it. If you can come back here with D and with Drew, you're in an okay spot. It's not necessarily the best, but you know that Julie is spooked. You know that she has an idol. There's so many scary things here. This has been a very tough spot for Drew and Austin flipping at this time, and it's been so emotional and so much going on. You could both be immune. That is pretty ideal in this situation. So while it worked out, he left it up to Julie. He left it up to her whims. It didn't work out on a split. Maybe they should have been a different split, and that's not his fault. But still, again, would have left it to the whims of everyone else. It's about asserting agency. It's protective, but also I think at that point, you have to play the idol. So while it worked out, I'm not going to credit this here for Austin.
Right. And I mean, that's why I think that for Austin, the right thing for him to do was vote for Julie in that situation. But I think it's really, they should have had D vote for.
Well, they thought they were doing that, to be fair.
Wait, but I feel like D would have told him, I'm voting for, I'm
I
going
mean,
to vote
D
with
never
you guys
saw that,
against
and it seemed
Julie.
very
Yeah.
last minute. If they know that D is voting for Julie, they should be like, "Don't do that. You're all
Yeah,
split.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
you'd be putting us all
exactly.
at
Yeah.
risk. Like, don't put that in her
I
hands."
guess
Like,
I'm assuming I mean, there's so much that can't be shown, and like that might ruin the suspense. But like, I feel like from what we've seen, Dee and Austin tell everything to each other.
yeah.
So I
Well, then
feel like,
that's terrible.
except for Dee not sharing that she told Julie. But I think the other thing we have to chat through is like how we even got to this point. Now that we're kind of talking about Austin's gameplay, is like the decision to not ask for the idol back. And the decision for Julie to keep the idol and how that kind of played out. And Austin seems like he's not a very confrontational person. And I very much relate to that. So if I were in his position, I would have a hard time asking for the idol back. But as somebody who had an idol in my hands that was somebody else's, and they asked for it back from me, it is like I can relate to that a bit. Like when Mike asked me to let me have that idol back, it's hard not to say yes. But the thing is, I didn't even plan anything in my head to say no, because I was already planning to give it back to him because of the nullifier. But that's not in the situation here. So like, do you like this move for Julie? Well, obviously it worked out for
I
Julie,
liked it for
but
Julie.
we didn't know that. We didn't know that 3 weeks ago, you know? So do you like the move to just not really say anything about it? And then do you like Austin's plan to like flush it? Or the really wise recent podcast guest from last week, Nina Twine, did suggest to me, like, what if Emily comes back from the journey and, you know, you say as Drew or Austin, you go to Julie and say she got knowledge is power.
I think people need to stop trying with the knowledge is power thing. Like, it's realistic, but so played out that, like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. In terms of Julie keeping it, I like it based on the rapidly increasing threat level that we find out more about every week. If she's as much of a threat, well, even just if they perceive her as the level of threat they perceive her to be, like, seems like she needed something.
Right.
For Austin, I mean, I don't think he can ask for it back, because now you look like you're breaking, like that will trigger the break. He at that point has to flush it. Like at that point, I guess the issue was in giving it to her. But again, like, it's hard because they did all fine together. They're meant to be this communal group. He does want to save her in a situation where there's that 3-3-3 could be weird. And so much of the new era is apparently around not having a thing where you are. It's like, oh no, we all went to different camps, and like the fear of that. So I don't know. I mean, look, that was clearly like the wrong move and the wrong read, but it actually is a tough spot in that moment. So I blame Austin for many things in this episode, and like I credited him for giving Julie that. I'm like, he's so communal, she'll definitely give it back.
Yeah.
Like, he's helping to keep Reba like tight and strong through this, like, to a majority. And I don't know if he was just misreading her or just like was between a rock and a hard place, but clearly that wasn't as good as I thought. Probably was actively bad. And then there's like,
no,
what
I
other
disagree.
things in here?
I disagree. I think it was the right thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do.
Silly.
Yeah, I think the thing is, we can't always let the outcome dictate whether or not it was the right thing, because process over outcome. But at the same time, for Austin in that moment, you know, he has, whether it's the right, I think the bigger question is whether or not he should be revealing to everyone he has what he has. But at this point, his whole alliance and Emily know. I actually don't know if Emily knew about his original Reba idol.
Emily knows about the amulet.
She knows about the amulet, and then the core Reba group knows he has the Reba idol and the amulet, which they know is now an activated idol. So now he has 2 immunity idols, and he's not willing to share it within his group. I think that the action of him giving it to Julie really lowered his threat level within his group and protected him to where he's not been a target up until now. And I think that's something that's not easily translatable. I think if he withholds that and holds on to those idols, he becomes a very big target, because they're like, we have to get him out because he has 2 idols.
Yeah. And he seems self-interested. Like, he kept himself lower as a threat. He kept Reba strong as a group. And like, you do have to look at the positives that he got out of that. My issue for Austin is, like, firstly, telling D here, I don't agree with. I feel like she'll come back and be like, we protected you from yourself. Like, you didn't have to be a part of that. Like, you got, like, you got to be blissfully ignorant to the fact that was happening, and hopefully trying to pull her back. At that point, you might empower her, but you've won the war of numbers. Like, if she doesn't want to get on board, she can be next, and he doesn't want to do that. But it seems like an emotional thing, because Romba flashback, they're 4 kids level in love, Omar. So like, I think it's emotional rather than strategic, which in this context I have to criticize. And my issue as well is, like, while something like giving the idol seems silly, but we're crediting it here. All of the stuff can be exploited with the jury. Like he told D, gave his idol, like it makes him look like the JT for real, giving idols away. Like when we said Steven and JT, we didn't mean it that way. So like when Drew says he's closer to Austin in a category, and I've kind of been putting Austin ahead of the alpha, I think these things behoove Drew to go to the end with Austin and be like, I was cleaning up the messes while he had like love goggles, So I think that is really bad for him and where he stands. But I think that like Drew actually, I didn't love that. I felt like he kind of needed immunity here, and who knows how else it would have gone. Maybe Julie like does properly idle him out if it's Drew over Austin. Maybe he splits better if he's in danger. But I didn't love that position. But then thinking about it more for Drew, I'm like, he's had a better jury chance than I thought against Austin. That's good. He does win all the votes in like the Reba war. They do all go on Julie. That's good. He was suspicious of Julie. That was bad. But I'm like, compliment sandwich. I thought he disseminated the information well. Like he gave it to Katurah and Jake. And then like Katurah gave it to Austin. And then Austin came to him and he was like, I'm receiving this information that he had started. Winning immunity, very key here. Got to credit some part of that. I thought he chose well with the reward and like, we're just the guys, and everyone seemed to go with that. But in having Emily, Jake's like a pivotal fourth vote. So I thought that was good. So I thought like actually good stuff from Drew here. Like the only thing you would say is like in flipping on Reba here, I'm like running through anyway. In flipping on Reba, he opens himself up to the insurgency that could have and should have happened, but he's clearly reading that it's not, he's locked it down enough that it won't. And I actually like, I go back and forth on whether Reba should have flipped, but hearing more and more about Julie's threat level and how insane it was, if they're reading any part of that correctly, I do see some incentive to flip, and he clearly had locked it down enough that wasn't going to happen. It was a necessary risk that he secured, I feel, within that. So higher on Drew than I would have thought coming out of this, because, it was just such a cry-filled, messy episode for Reba breaking on each other here.
Yeah, I think that Drew, I agree. Like on paper, you look at what happened, and you're like, oh, not great for Drew. And it does set himself to be in a bad spot next week, and we see him, throw the pot or whatever. But I think that the one thing where things went wrong for Drew this week, in my opinion, based on what we've seen, is I think the timing of telling Austin. I think that seems like it was done kind of pre-immunity challenger very early. And I think that gave him time to go to D and then spill the plans, because like theoretically Drew only needed to get Coutura, Jake, and Emily on board for this plan. But for his long-term gain, yes, maybe including Austin is fine, but you don't need to do it so early when it's he's the linchpin, and you don't even make it. You don't go to like kind of like if anybody's watching Survivor UK, you don't need to go down to the guy on the beach like Tanuke did and was like, we think that this should happen. You make it come or seem like a last minute decision with Austin. That way he doesn't have time to screw it up.
Yeah. Well, a lot of interesting stuff here. Drew and Austin are, in very different places. They want to go to the end together, but in such a different way. So I feel like they have very different intentions. But it is like this partnership. So it's interesting. He's going to Austin. He makes a very, very similar mistake to Austin. Like Austin is like, I'm going to go to D, and she's going to be so loyal to me that she will do this thing. And then she goes to Julie. And then Drew's like, I'm going to go to Austin. He's going to be so loyal to me that he's not going to go to D. And then he does. Like the one person who goes to the person and actually has the influence to get it done is D. D goes to Julie and saves Julie, and Julie still does, with incentive, as we said, what D wants. So I feel like that's like the one part where it's like if Julie had then idled out Austin, it would have just been like a domino effect of like mysteries and the same kind of mistake being like made to tell this information. But I thought with Drew and Austin, it was so interesting to me in terms of their different intentions. Like it seems like Austin wants to go with the 3. He can't cut D. They are married. So that's the 3. And then Drew seemingly does want to go to a 4 with people he sees as like lower on the threat level. He says that, D, Julie, and Emily, that like they need to be the next 3 boots. Go with Katurah and Jake and Austin, who it seems like maybe he would have the best kind of jury chances against from what we can see. Point to the Bellows' lack of agency, point to Austin stumbling around, and really play that up. I thought it was really funny, like the face that Austin made where he was like, have to flush my own idol. He was like, he was
which
so
I
casual
like,
about
by the
it.
way, as well.
Yeah, playing it down actually probably is a good strategic move.
Yeah. And I also like that Austin is willing to like not be like, oh, I need to get that idol back. He's willing to flush his own
Yeah,
idol and change courses. I
that
like
is a
that.
sunk cost.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
happened.
and
Yeah.
I think for Drew, I think I'm now that you've inspired some thoughts in me. I'm thinking like, well, what is Drew's best path? He seems like he wants to get to the end with Austin to some extent because he has a maybe a better argument within the Reba, so at least that's how he feels. But to do that, D is the biggest obstacle. It's not Julie. D is the one that Austin is most connected to outside of what Drew's intentions are and the thing that goes against Drew's plan the most. So I think especially when Emily spills to Drew that there's this thought that we need to vote out, or Julie is trying to approach them to vote out Austin. At that point, Drew says somebody told her. Drew knows somebody told her. He has to know it came through D or like Austin to D. Something in that thing didn't work. And that's where I think, depending on time and relationships, that's where Drew flips it and gets Jake, Katurah, and Emily to vote for D. Like, I think that is something that could have benefited his game.
I wouldn't vote for D as a primary because I'm worried about the idol coming back with Julie. I'd put
But
the
if he
primary
thinks that
still
she's
on
going to play
Julie.
it based on
Yeah, I mean, but
thinking
you
she's going
give her
home.
the opportunity. But yeah, I mean, you can do that, or you can
Mhm.
just like force the split that it should have been to protect Emily, who's been more worthwhile to him, and then
Right.
work with the split that they could have done
Yeah.
On D, just to protect Austin firstly, and also to kind of take her out there. I think that's
secondary
interesting.
target, that makes sense too. Yeah.
Because they're going to be, there's a crux like of what they want. And you can see it even when they're discussing the timing of when they should take out Julie and Emily. Like Austin wants to take out Emily now and then Julie. And other than like the fear of Julie finding out about that and giving her more time and playing the idol, which, I would assume that fear is why he eventually comes around on it. It makes sense for him to take out Emily, who's such like a kind of sticking point for Drew, and it's like they're going to be having arguments about that. Like I know that within the next few weeks, so or the next few days. So it makes sense that he would be like, we get rid of that. We take out Emily, then we take out Julie at 6, and now our 3 are marching to the end, right? He kind of like sews up that 3. Whereas for Drew, who wants to take out Julie now, you don't give her that time and you come back with your 4, and you have more power even then to not need, like you can just be like, well, Austin, get on board. We're taking out D next if we need to. Or even if you take out Emily, you still have your 3 with more like Jake and Katurah that you can like, feel like you can, flip on that. It just like, you can see they were kind of like subtly trying to maybe not even subconsciously like depower each other because they both have these other interests. And for Drew, it was like using Emily and getting forward with this 4 for Austin. It was obviously going to the end with D. So I think that kind of worked into the timing. Like for Drew, it makes so much sense. At that point, if you get rid of Julie now and you have, at that point, you can take out D. You could take out Emily even if you need to, and then still be in like a swing vote position at 5. Like it really does empower him. So yeah, it was interesting that they were having that conversation because they were actually coming from pretty different places.
Yeah, and I think I mean it's hard because like Julie's got the idol and is a jury threat, but D's relationship with Austin is such a problem for Drew, but it seems like he hasn't really thought that it was up until now. And honestly, D's relationship with Julie is also a problem, which he knew that's why he had to leave Julie or D out of the vote completely. So I think it's I guess it's hard to like know. I think so much of Survivor, like actually playing, it's like it comes down to timing too. Like sometimes the optimal move or trying to pull things off. Sometimes you actually don't have the opportunity to have a conversation with a particular player in time. Like I remember at the merge vote, I mean, that's a little bit different because there were so many more people, but I couldn't track people down for like hours and I was trying to find them to discuss things. And sometimes that stuff does make a difference, or the order you go for a walk and confessional, that stuff does matter. But it's not something that can easily be told via the story.
Yeah, I'm also realizing that I painted the same final 5 as different. I'm like, Austin could be at the final 5 with Drew and D. They've sewn it up. I'm like, Drew could be at the final 5 with Austin and D, and then Jake and Couture and be the swing vote. I'm painting it differently, but at the end, he would have a lot of agency at 6. Get rid of D at 6, and just have more decision making there. And also for him, he has kind of like less fear of that. Like he's coming, he can take out Julie and still feel like he has a majority at 6, whereas Austin might be like, well, now we only have 3 of 6 in my true 3. And then obviously if you can take out Julie quicker so she has less time to read things and play the idol when they're having this like initial discussion. And for Drew, like there's only upside, but for Austin, like there's some issues for his 3, clearly for D, which might be why Drew wants to even go with it. So they're definitely at cross purposes, which I think is interesting.
So who do we think at the end of the day should have also like just put a vote on somebody else? And would that have actually outnumbered the number of votes to be a majority? Like I think Emily should have voted differently. Dee should have voted differently, and maybe
Dee
Drew.
Should have split. Yeah, well, I think like, I mean, Drew is immune. So it's like him trying to like flush Julie with the idol. I mean, he
more to protect Emily, I think, because Emily's in his corner.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, he's not splitting for her. Like he's willing to part with her. Like that's like maybe for Austin, but like that, like he was vouching for her, but obviously not enough. Like pretty much everyone should have done something slightly different. Like the non-Reba should come over the top. Dee should be splitting the vote. Austin should probably also split a vote. Like the only person who actually gets out their actual target is Dee. So from Dee's perspective, I think the non-split was an issue. And I think that, anyone who knew that she was voting for Julie and allowed the non-split, you're a problem too. And Austin, even with the split, you probably also vote for Emily just to assure yourself, or you play the idol, one of the two. But
would it be ironic then if everybody should have voted differently and then Julie doesn't even come out with the most votes? Like,
well, I mean, like that. I mean, they literally shouldn't have given her that power. Like they gave her an enormous amount of power. So that's like a failing on many different people. Other than Dee gives her. I mean, like, look, it is a failing on Dee because she should split to not even give Julie the power because it could have doomed Austin. Or if Austin plays his idol, let's go to the 0-0 revote.
Yeah.
Austin played his idol. They're all voting again.
Yeah.
They probably all vote out.
Now we have Drew immune.
Yeah.
Julie immune and Austin immune.
Yeah.
And so we have
Julie's
Emily
voting for. What if Julie wants to vote? Okay, Julie's voting for Emily.
Yeah.
Drew's probably voting for Emily.
Yeah.
Austin's voting for Emily.
Or Dee. Like I guess because the question is Drew, like does Drew prioritize Dee or Emily? You know,
it would again come down to Drew deciding at a revote. And why does Dee
Jake and Katurah, I think, vote Emily. The thing is, I think Jake and Katurah vote Emily from what we've seen anyways. I just have a feeling. So then it's like Emily's gone in that situation and most likely. And I think also in that situation, nobody's expecting all of these targets to be immune. So then they just kind of default to what the last thing was. And there's not a lot of time to actually discuss it. So I wonder if that's just there must be like a saying about that, but like the loosest, I don't know, the crappiest boat will sink or whatever. But I think that is kind of where the votes would fall because it would be a big move to take out someone like Dee. And I'm not sure in that crunch time, they would kind of come to that conclusion. That's why I think a plan has to be set before.
Yeah, no, the way I'm like, would you finally do it? Would Emily, Katurah, and Jake with Drew at that point be like, would they really fight? I mean, they probably, like, at that point, Emily would know that she's next out. She'd really have to fight in some kind of tribal. Dee opens herself up to that opportunity. And more than that, she puts Austin at extreme risk. So not splitting is the worst thing that Dee did in this episode. In saying that, I actually came out of it quite high on Dee. She's managed her threat level clearly well. The Julie was actually a shield for her, and they've talked about how she's minimized that. She could still speak to things with a jury. Her relationship with Austin is so key to get that information. And I also think you tell Julie, right? Like,
agreed.
She needs Julie in the
100%.
game.
Yeah.
It's better for Julie to have Julie than Emily. Like, she actually really wants Emily out. She gets that. She does like really push Julie to do the vote that Dee wants. Largely, it seems based on that relation, pretty much probably completely based on that relationship. So I actually was pretty high on Dee here. The other than the split, and also saying to Julie that Austin was also her number one. But like, I also feel like that got mistranslated because she's saying like my two number ones. She literally said and it's like how I say people are my best friend, but do I mean like, yes, I have a lot of best friends, and I love them all. But like, she really like quantified that, and even in the mistranslation, showed Julie that it's a discussion. So
I mean, the player she's most like is Swati Ghoul.
She chose me number one. So other than those two things, I'm pretty high on Dee.
So I like how we're kind of breaking this down person by person, because now we get to go into Dee and then we'll do Jake and Katurah. But I think that Dee, I love the way she played tonight, personally, for the most part. Like, I think there's decisions everybody made that I'm like, I don't really see that particular part of it. But as a whole, I love the way Dee's playing, because I think Dee and I see the game also very similarly, in the sense that, there's this core group that you have to try to protect and move forward with. Mine wasn't loyal to me. That's fine. But for Dee, she saw an opportunity where she knows if Julie goes, even before that, the way that Dee talked to Austin, I love that. I don't know if you had that in your notes, but like
Yes, I
sitting
did.
on the beach, this is what I want to have to happen, but I'm thinking that might not be the
Yeah,
way
she
you want
kind
to
of was like
go.
clocking it. So like even in defense of
Yes.
Austin telling her, it kind of felt like she was already indicating
Clocked
that.
it.
So that's like the
Yeah,
one
like
thing.
her intuition, like with
Yeah.
the whole knowing Drew and Austin had an idol slash advantage early on in the game. Her reads are spot on. Her intuition is so good. And I think that that is such an impressive part of her gameplay, because the thing is that people don't realize on Survivor is everybody's lying to everybody at all times. And sometimes it's very hard to know who is lying and when they're lying. And like the thing that, speaking from experience, like people were telling me the truth pretty much the whole time. So when they started lying to me, it was a little bit hard to pick up on, because they had been telling me the truth the whole way and everything had been checking out story wise. So I'm like, okay, maybe we'll continue to check out. But D can, feel and sense when something's just a bit off. And I think you have to follow those instincts. Whereas I think some players, like even myself, was very quick to be like, talk myself down of don't be paranoid. Don't think about that. That's not an issue. You see something suspicious and you're easily able to talk yourself out of it. But D knows when to zero in on that. And her paranoia is spot on when it comes down to reads like that. And that really makes the difference for a game player, because somebody who didn't pursue that avenue would have missed that. And then Julie would have gone home and she would be stuck in a final 6 where she's at everybody else's mercy. So I think in this situation, she needed to protect Julie, because going into a final 6 with Julie and Austin is extremely powerful for her, because she has 2 people that will never turn on her or have her back 100% in a group of 6. And that's so invaluable. And the way she's achieving that is by having somebody's back. Everybody wants Julie out, and you're saving her by giving her this information. You're going to bat for her. That person won't have anybody else but you, so they're probably not going to go after you next round, like maybe in a few, because ultimately they may say, well, I need to win over you because you were a good player. But for D, this was like the best thing to do. I love how she did it. I mean, she couldn't fully control how Julie would act, and that kind of put things at risk. The only things I didn't like from D were not was voting for Julie, because I think that, again, like we've talked about, set them up for potential failure. And also, I didn't love the number 1 thing, but
No,
I
yeah.
hear what you're saying in the
No,
larger
it was still
context
bad.
of,
It was still
yeah,
bad.
in the larger context of like, well, you're both my number 1,
Yeah,
which
but that's
I
not
think
also
is a
great.
red flag. Yeah, that's not
Yeah,
great,
like
but
that's
it's
also like at a
still,
best case scenario.
I think,
Yeah.
basically she should have. Sometimes in Survivor also, like, they highlight a lot on the shows of, you lie or tell a fib or twist the truth for 2 people to rift apart. You know what I mean? Like that's something that is highlighted a lot on the show because it's interesting. But I think sometimes in Survivor also you have to frame information to bring people together. And I think she started to frame Austin as somebody that wanted to keep Julie. He just didn't have a
Yeah.
way, but she should have probably opened with that, because then Julie would have never been onto Austin. She could have
She
said,
still might have.
Austin told me to like
Yeah.
warn you or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I still think she managed that pretty well at the point where Julie, like, obviously does want to go for it. She shouldn't have given her the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
But they had so many numbers here to deal with that. But I like the way she managed Julie to get her away from thinking like this was really Austin's fault. She's like, it's Drew. Which is actually true, but Austin was doing more
Yeah.
than probably Julie gave credit for. Like he was allowing that to happen.
I think
also,
Austin wanted Julie to go, but he
yeah,
also was,
exactly.
yeah,
Didn't want he just didn't want to like put D off.
blindside D. Yeah.
So he kind of probably speaks to that and like he does that himself. Like he's like, well, they all have the numbers, my number, and which is true. But like also he's fine with it. And then she also pushes that to Julie. And something we haven't spoken about is the trek that they went on, the journey where they had this here.
Did you like it or hate it?
I mean, it was fine. Like I hate to fence it. Like I think like the ability to lose a vote at the final 7, don't love, but that there was agency in
It was a
choosing
choice,
to
yeah.
go. It wasn't just like they lost their vote. So I thought that like it gives obviously intrigue around decisions, mistrust. Like it kind of was nothing. Like was this better than a reward challenge? Like I don't necessarily know. I also thought giving them a bag with the stone was unnecessary. Like if they want to pick sticks, they'll pick the sticks. Like and you see people like rig sticks, give them the opportunity to do that rather than like again like forcing that for them. But otherwise, I'm like this was simply fine. What did you think?
I think that they, I mean, they're trying to like. It's interesting because it seems like at every juncture in the new era, they try something at like 7. It's do or die at first, and then it was what's that? The one they did in 43 where it was choose your champion.
Yeah.
I can't
Choose
remember if
champion
they
was good
did it.
because that was just like, yeah, not a lot
But
happened.
kind of, but then it was also a way to like constrict the vote further. And I feel like at
Yeah.
7, you don't need to constrict the vote
Why do
further
they just want to make 7
because
interesting?
I don't know because it's already the
So
most
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
already
Especially with the final.
it's the
Well, with
point
the final
where
4, maybe you want to shake it up, like a
yeah,
fire 4,
that's
which
true.
Katurah
But I
hates.
feel like yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you, Katurah. But the
Saying
final
what we all
4
feel.
really makes the final 7 the last time to flip the game, but it also makes it so easy for just a group of 4 to stick together, and that's so boring. But
Yeah.
and so that's where maybe losing a vote could make things more interesting. But I feel like it's such an interesting position to begin with that we don't need it here. But I did like the agency part of it. I think that it was kind of a dud though when the person says no, because then it's like, okay, well, what was all of this for? And so I wonder if this is the mechanism they're going with, not necessarily at 7, but it's like, okay, you know, anybody that steps up can do this, you know, because especially with a puzzle that hard, most people are going to say no. So if you open it up to the field of like the first person who wants to do it, go do it, you know, I think that that would be more interesting because then, and maybe have it set up to where, you know, it's on the beach or something down the beach and anybody can go at any time before the immunity challenge or something like that. Like, I think that adds
Yeah, and there's
a
one thing.
layer
It's
of
not like they're all like
intrigue.
competing against each other. Like they
Yeah.
can. But then how do they? I don't want it to just be like whoever runs there the fastest. Like that's my kind of
Yeah,
issue
or
with
you
that.
have like, I don't know, or if you have the bag of rocks, they have a number and you can, you know, decide in
Yeah,
that
or
order
maybe
what you're
you
doing.
have to decide in order to choose. It's getting a little complicated,
Yeah.
which is something that they probably don't want. I mean, I think that in terms of like the simplicity of this being like a very late journey, there was some intrigue because it's like compared to early on in the season when like that will pretty much can very much set your standing. Now you're kind of protecting already established dynamics. So like while I'm usually like, don't go on these treks early on, I'm kind of high on everyone wanting to go here because firstly, if you're
Yes.
not in control, like someone like Emily was, like, you know, that necessity is an issue in and of itself that, you know, she might need that, but she needs it. If you're in the majority, you want to protect against someone else disrupting. So like in a perfect world, you go, as Emily says, you have the agency to choose. You can make safe decisions, hopefully, if they give you an out like that, which they haven't always done on these treks. But if you can go protect or use something communally, if you can, like, I think like, yeah, having that ability to either protect as a majority or gain something if you're not in a great position is where I understand why they all wanted to go on this, but
Yeah.
at the point of doing it for Emily, I also back not doing it as much as like, you know, maybe that was kind of, you know, a bit of deflating for the twist itself. Because you don't know where you'll need your vote at 7. As we're saying for Emily, we've talked through the 3-2-2s, the 3-3-1s, throwing a vote on a shot in the dark. Like it might
I mean,
seem
her
at that
vote could have
time.
saved her this week.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it was important to
Yeah.
keep.
That's what it is. It's protect
Yeah.
your vote, but then use it better than this. Like protect your
Yes.
vote,
Yeah.
not to pile all the votes on the person who clearly knows that they're going home and is going to do
Yeah.
something about it. Before you gave up this opportunity, Emily, to protect
Yeah.
your vote, best use it better and do more
Yeah.
impactful things with it than putting it on someone who's probably going to play something if they have it that's going to rebound in you in a quote unquote showdown. So that's my
Right,
issue.
because
But
ostensibly
opting
it's
out,
like 6-1.
yeah,
If you're going 6-1 with the knowledge of basically going 6-1, you're basically losing your vote anyways. It doesn't matter, you know. So I think
yeah,
in that sense, why not have rolled the dice and gone for it? But obviously that's way earlier in the episode. But I think that I think she made the right decision, but then, like you said, needed to do more with the actual vote. I
yes,
think that, but in that position, you know, at 7, everybody could say that you're lying, and clearly everybody already thinks she's lying. Dee
yeah,
calls it right away,
mm,
and basically Julie said before she even came back, no matter what happens, I think she's lying about what happens. So I
yeah,
think that in that situation, you have to make up a lie or tell a story that somewhat incentivizes people to not vote for you. So if you have choose your champion in your mind, be like, okay, well, I got to pick somebody who I think will win the immunity challenge, and
oh,
you know,
that's
it
I
will
like
be
that.
revealed at tribal council whether or not I'm right. And if I am, I'm safe, you know? So
Well,
like,
Drew won the challenge, so she probably wouldn't have been able to rely on that. Yeah, it's like the
or
odds of her.
something
Yeah.
where
Mm,
you could leave it up to, okay, let's best just stay away from her just because we don't know what the outcome of, like, people at this point
yeah.
want to avoid variability, right? So I think that if you're gonna go, then you have to have something to back you up when you get back.
Yeah, it's hard to find that line between being non-threatening, like, oh, she has something, maybe we should do something about it, but also have it to like give you some sort of implicit immunity, and maybe something like choose your champion before, like, oh, I got to see what
Because
the
it's just
challenge
one
was, or what
round.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, yeah. Because it's
yeah.
just one round, right? So it's like, that's something where, like if you say you have an extra vote that's good through the final 5, then that incentivizes people to maybe try to get you out at 7. And so I think it needs to be something that expires that round, and something that, implies safety, where nothing you can do about it will get you out, so that you will just get the implicit immunity and move on. And if they want to get you out next round, they can have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, look, you could just say you won the immunity, because it was weird. Like, how would that immunity have worked? Would she have won like a necklace?
I'm
Would
not
it
sure
have
if it
been
was an
like an
idol,
idol?
or that's what
Yeah,
I'm not
because if you
sure
come back,
about.
it's like, I played it, I won. You can't
Yeah.
vote for me. Would they be like, is there proof of that? And she'd be like,
or
no.
say like you find out at tribal or something like that. I don't know. Because that way,
Yeah, okay.
like,
Yeah.
you played the game or whatever, but you're not sure, like the results will be revealed, and it's
Yeah,
like
I did
functions like
another
an
math
idol.
problem. I did another,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm gonna find out if I was right at tribal council. If I'm not, I lose my vote. And if I get it, I'm immune. I'm as confused as you are, but like, maybe we stay away from me. Maybe we don't rely on my vote. But then you can rely on your vote. And that's when you come over the top, Emily.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, yeah, that's a trek. We're gonna get into some questions. I do want to talk about 2 kind of narrative things before we do. Now that we're away from the strategy, and we can probably get to even more. I have to say, this episode had my head spinning. It's a hard one to do the after show for. It's
What
a
about
lot.
Katurah? What
Yeah,
about her
well,
position?
I wanted to talk about Katurah from a narrative standpoint. Her position is come over the top. That's all I have. 3, 2, 2.
Well,
like, at this point, Reba will decide your fate, Katurah and Jake. So that's
I mean, I guess my question about, and I think I know your answer based off of that, but for her, the argument, even dating back to the Caleb vote, was infiltration again versus counter alliance. And I think that has been a big question. And now we see her say, okay, actively, like, I want to come out of my shell and make bigger moves. Now it's towards the end of the game. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's towards the end of the game. And now, the group is splintering. So some people may say that is an effective strategy and she had the right read. I guess the question is, I'm not sure people are going to give her the agency credit for it. So I think that still a counter alliance may have been better. But what is
definitely?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there's
like
no
earlier
question.
than tonight, even.
Yes. Last week, all the weeks, last week was
Yeah.
disastrous with Couture. I've really felt like really set on Bruce, when like all the risk that Emily had I felt Katurah wouldn't have. And all of the issues with working with them was based on Katurah. So Katurah can change that in a way that Emily maybe couldn't have. She definitely should have flipped last week. She definitely should have flipped this week. Like, you do the insurgency, like, well, you do the, really like sucking up to the main group to get the time and the space to get the opportunity to flip. But then when you can flip, you flip. You don't just take it down to the point where then they knock you off if they want to. It's just not enough agency for me. That's Katurah strategically. Game-wise, many disagreements across the weeks about when she should have been flipping across the last couple of weeks. From a narrative perspective, I mean, we finally get her backstory, which was something that wasn't told preseason. Like, it was so chillingly shocking to hear about her experience in a cult. Like, like that she was chosen as a child bride, taken out of school. I just really want to just speak to it. I think that it's such an interesting thing. It's like when you're pushed down in life and you get an unlucky thing, you can use that to be like, well, I'm going to take everything I can from now on. I'm in survival mode. Like, I just need to do as much as I can for myself. And honestly, who could blame you? Like, if you don't rebound from that, and if you do see it as like, I'm running on like a hamster wheel for the rest of my life, and I can only focus on myself. Like, I would not begrudge that. In my position of privilege, how could I ever do that? But the fact that she could turn that around for not only success for herself, and then with that empathy of having been a victim, I'm going to turn that around and help other people. Like, I love it. What an incredible story, and she's phenomenal.
Wow, you're like my twinnie. I basically tweeted the same thing, in the sense that, like, she's been through something so traumatic, and it's a shame that it took 11 episodes to give her some like content that was beyond just Bruce. But it also kind of provides some subtext of like, I think the whole thing is like her reactions are hers, and there's reason. I think it just shows that everybody has a story that may not be out there. And so like, if we should try to empathize with people rather than judge them off the bat. And I think, yes, you're totally right. When you have something so traumatic happen, something so bad, you can go one of two ways or one of two avenues. You can, and she's chosen a route that's extraordinarily positive and advocating for others and protecting others. And the thing is, I'm not a civil rights attorney, but that job is probably very, very thankless. Like, you're constantly trying to fight for somebody to be seen as human, or fight for their rights, or be on the basic level as everybody else. And sometimes you get shut down by the system, and that must be so frustrating and heartbreaking on an everyday basis, and so soul crushing for her, to like do that and still choose to advocate. Like, that type of person is very special. And I think that, we should applaud her for her like work towards the community, because that is just incredible to take a job that involves so much mental energy, and so much, potential hurt and stuff like that, and still, do that. I think it's incredible, personally.
Yes, I completely agree. She could just coast for life thinking of herself, and she chooses not to, and that she's just phenomenal. But then in terms of the narrative of the season and getting this from Katurah and the narrative we've had from Jake, maybe it doesn't matter to the result. Maybe that's not how winner edits act anymore. But it's just so interesting for me that Emily is gone now. And this was Lulu and Emily's story, I feel. And something, because Survivor is not scripted, sometimes I feel that results don't kind of validate the main narratives of the season, or maybe even like the main twists of the season. Something I've talked about from like Island of the Idols, when Tommy won and he was like the one person who'd never gone. It felt like the result was kind of invalidating that as a twist. It's like it wasn't important. We've seen other things in like International Survivor that I'm thinking of, where like you dominated the mechanism the best. That really validates this as a theme. And then in terms of like this season, it will not be validated as Lulu's story, which I actually think is kind of disappointing. Like at this point, it's now Reba's dominance, and that will be it, or it's the messy bellow underdogs, which they're giving very personally to Jake and Katurah. So we're given either one of those. I don't think it's as strong as the Lulu narrative, but that's where this is going to have to go either way.
See, that's interesting, because I felt like narratively, the Lulu story to me feels complete. Like,
is it?
Emily,
I feel very dissatisfied. What like Caleb, like for me, it was like Caleb, gave Emily all this like kind of education around the game. Like, what does she do with it? She like avenges him, and she did not. Like, she actually just kept enabling Reba like, where did that storyline go? I feel like it's a very incomplete story. And to have no Lulus in at the final 6, when I feel like when we look back at the season, I actually think like we'll really, really think about that pre-swap with Lulu, the Sabaya vote. Then we're going to think about Caleb. Like, it's very Lulu centric, and Emily was obviously like the representative of that. So to not to not have that now going forward into the last 2 episodes, like I do think is an unsatisfying kind of storyline for the season, but they can't decide what happens. So.
I feel like, so I thought that it was like the Lulu was the first crescendo, and then Bello kind of peaked, and then Reba's kind of coming into their own. So I see it as quite like a symmetrical, like a little like different sine and cosine waves just being a little bit off from one another to bring it back to math. But like I felt like Lulu Emily's story came full circle, in the sense that, they even flash back to episode 1 where she was having struggles. And then now she's like had this growth narrative of like, this is what I've learned from that, and I've come this far, and that's okay. And so I felt like it was complete, but that was just me.
It wasn't enough. Flashing back to Hannah, after just flashing back to Romba, I was like, where are the flashbacks going? I can't tell where the next one's going to be. That wasn't enough for me. Like, it was kind of concerning. I'm like, Katurah and Emily are getting a bit of a story here. Which one of them is going home? But for Emily, I think they were trying to tie it up into like the journey she's had, which has been so compelling, by showing like, hey, we shouldn't have even had 10 more episodes of Emily.
Right.
And it wasn't enough for me. It just, because, and it's game related. Like, she should still have got the edit she did. It was a phenomenal Lulu story, but it just fizzled to a point of every week. It's like, should she have made the move? Probably. Should she and we did it at 9, she'd never vote 8. Now we're saying it at 7, and it just like kind of whimpered to the end. Even if she'd like made the big move and had fallen, maybe that would be interesting. It's like, okay, this like, big insurgency and like taking that risk and like finally coming out and like doing the big thing. Maybe that's what like Caleb gave her the wings, and now she's like flying, and then she falls. There's something interesting there. But I guess maybe the narrative is coming from Lulu was really hard. She found a home and she clung to it, and then they crushed her. Is that
Right.
is that satisfying? Like,
Uh,
I mean, it does speak to Lulu because I think she does come in the back foot, and it is interesting. It's like Lulu was not her family. Like Lulu was a bad situation. She finds her new Reba family, and they crush her. Like, is
Right.
that I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like Emily's story was good, but to be fair, also by the time she left, she's had more, like Survivor 45 has more airtime minutes than in pretty much every other season by now already, even for the
Yeah,
finale.
definitely.
And so
Yeah.
like I think
Mhm.
that it felt like a lot. I felt if anything, Lulu wise, Caleb's story was cut short a little bit before I thought it felt complete to
Yeah.
me. But yeah, I think either way, like they both brought so much to the season. Lulu, one of the greatest tribes of all time, in my opinion, like so
Yeah.
fantastic entertainment wise. And this season has been really like, I think the one thing that we could detract from it was the predictability a little bit in the last few weeks. But with this week,
This was
you
a
know,
week. This was like a top 3 episode for me, I
this
think.
was
Hey, like
like
Sean
truly,
Stark,
yeah,
Sabaya, and this picked it up.
yeah,
After because there's so much to discuss as well. But it's just the results of like they can't decide what happens. Like, is the season better if Emily goes forth, makes a move, dominates and wins? Like, yeah, that's a phenomenal season. Like, I don't know
right,
what's gonna happen, but I love that season.
yeah,
Is last season at its best because Tika dominate? Yes. But like again,
yeah,
the show can't. We don't want them to rig it to get what they want. You know, is
right.
Philippines better because Malcolm and Denise? Yes. Like, yes, those results validate that journey in a way
I
that
don't
this.
know. I thought Lisa should have won.
Oh
Oh,
my gosh, well, that's the
controversial.
hot take. Well, maybe not anymore. But anyway, Matt Singh validated all of these things. Like having
Yeah.
no Lulu at 6 is unfortunate, but that's like just where the
You
show is.
sound like
And
Jeff Probst right now.
they should be rigging it. We should be doing fire at the final 7, and then Emily.
Yeah, he's all about, okay, we have to have Edge of Extinction in
No,
the
it's
final episode because that's the payoff of the season, That's so you right now.
no, well, ouch. And also, I've long said with the results I don't like, they even prove how much you shouldn't rig it because I'll be fine. Do I want Emily to win? Yes. Like, I mean, and I like, they're also nice, but
Yeah.
like, would that be a great story? It is, but not at the expense of rigging. Like, the fact that I'm
Yeah.
upset about it and there is a better narrative for it, but it's still worth it to have the game play out purely and they can still make
Yeah.
something great out of it and I will be okay. It speaks to why you don't rig it. And that's what I've long said.
Yeah.
But
And all
okay,
she and Jake had to do was vote for D or Austin.
and it would have been a plurality vote. And imagine if they did, but no one even talked about it. Anyway, didn't even split. Emily. Anyway, a couple of questions. Let's get to that because we're running long. And I feel like every time I do this, like with Christian, it was 2 hours. Like Sam came back. He's like, what did you do? I'm like, oh, well, it was Christian and me and Caleb who played the show in the dark. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up. But let's ask this. Okay. Where's this question? Mrs. B, question. We hear about each season's culture and what's valued, discouraged. The lack of split vote seems to be part of the season's culture. What do you think made that the case? Congenial votes, I feel, and Reba utilizing that to me is like the story of this post-merge. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think a lot of people that have been on the bottom have been very scattered and they don't want to like lose trust with the Reba group. And so it's just been very easy to kind of collate on one thing. But I'm really not sure why people don't feel the need to throw a vote here. Like, I guess the one example too was Jake when he did try to go for Julie at the split tribal council and people saw the consequences of that, and it did not go well for him, even though I think that was the right move for him to try to do. It didn't go well for him. And so I think that has also led to a little bit of fear play to some extent, because I think that was a big reason.
Johnny Fairplay's cousin, Johnny Fearplay.
Yes, Johnny Fearplay. That's a good one. Is he going to be on House of Villains too?
No, he's the good one. He's like he's the hero version. They're like, yeah. Angel and devil kind of vibe. Yeah. He's on House of Heroes.
But I think like a lot of Katura's plays, it seemed like where she would like tell on Kendra for wanting D out just seemed very like, okay, let me just try to get in with them. So I'm trusted to be in the group so I can infiltrate or break it up later. And that led to a lot of that happening.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting for Reba who have benefited from that, they don't do it, but
yeah.
They should have been splitting a vote. I think we've said that. Drew is immune, so maybe he's not pushing that the most because he knows that he can't fall for it. And then for the non-Rebas, like it does speak to a culture of like appeasing Reba. Like we can't flip on Reba. We can't even try and split a couple of votes and upset Reba. Or like we can't even push for this agency with Reba. Like I just think Reba have very much pushed like congenial, and it very much started the merge. Like J Maya, Caleb, they gave Sifu and J Maya. They made a sacrifice.
Yeah.
quote unquote sacrifice, which Sifu I think was great. Jeremiah I thought was unnecessary, but they clearly really pushed something that is still somehow a culture that's playing out of people just trying to appease them. Like, it's such an interesting culture where you're like, I just have to get close to this group. They're powerful. They're going to help me. And it's like, where's your power? So it definitely has been a culture of the season that I think Reba has really pushed and benefited from over multiple weeks.
Which is ironic because Dee was one of the first people to throw off a hinky vote onto Sifu. But then Jeremiah got blamed for it, and then Jeremiah was put on the out. So
yeah, there was something very interesting here. I'm trying to see what we haven't answered. We got Leah Weber. Should Emily have lied? We spoke about that. About being okay. Milo, we've spoken about. I'm confused. Why did they stick with the Julie vote after they knew she found out and would use the idol? I think they thought that they were splitting. That's what I truly think. If they knew that Dee was voting with Julie and voting for Julie, there is no defense.
There's so few people left. How could they not know that all votes
because of time? And that seemed very close to the end for me.
Yeah, it did seem
a matter of time. I honestly assumed that they didn't know. If they knew, what do they think? They should have been like, Dee, that's so sweet and kind of you that you want to vote with us. Don't. You are our split vote. Don't do that. If anything, we also should be splitting a vote. Let's not split any votes. Don't worry. Julie's going to be okay. It's like, we could trust that.
See, I don't know. I feel like in my mind, I'm thinking that the situation there is like, I wonder if they were like, okay, well, if Dee votes with us against Julie, that proves she's not with Julie, and that's what we want from her. But I really don't think that they were surprised by that, but I guess we'll find out at some point. Tell Rob to ask about it in his exits.
Rob seems kind of busy. Yeah, I mean,
he's having fun right now.
Rob, if you're listening, ask Emily why she didn't come over the top of the vote. Okay, I've said that so many times. The people who feel I'm repetitive, you're right. Okay, one last question. Gabby Morera asks, question, is there a road for Couture to win? Yeah. The road is in other people's hands. The road is Reba fracturing on their own terms as they continue to working it down with even like a Drew or definitely like an Austin now that we see those jury gaps that they could exploit. And, you take out Julie next. They're fighting.
The thing is, I think there is a way for Couture to win. Or Jake as well. I think they're both kind of in a very similar position, but they do, like you said, you said something very wise. And I've heard you say it on podcasts before. It's like, are they going to break or are they going to break on your terms? And I feel like they to make it on their terms. And right now the fault line is Drew versus Julie. So in my opinion, they need to make sure that it goes on to Austin or Dee. And, with them being able to be in the middle and they're both vying for their votes, they could figure out a way, I think, to make that happen. And I think I think they have to make it happen.
They have to make it happen. They've missed so many opportunities that, yes, like at this point, yes, if they could push their own agency, that would be great. If they could at 8 and 7, but they can't. So
they have to do something outside that goes against what the other Rebas want to make it their own.
If they didn't do that even here, and it was so clear, then why do we do it under more difficult circumstances?
Well, the question is there a path to win? Not will they take it?
Yeah, I mean, I think their path to win is passive. I think this was passive, and I think that it could still work out. I think it's Reba fracturing, them not having control of how it happens, but still being pretty much utilized as pawns, getting to the end in that and being able to have the Bello friends or the ire of someone, people on Reba or the right Rebas like a Drew and an Austin who have upset people at some certain time to win on that and story and friendship. But for me, their win will not come at this point on asserting their own agency and controlling their own pathway, because I feel like they've given up those opportunities and they were better opportunities than they're likely to have in the future. Yeah. And even if they have those opportunities, they're unlikely to take them based on precedent. So
yeah, I mean, I have hope for them if they can figure it out at 6. I think 6 is basically their last chance, and it's not a great chance. It's a partial one. And I think you're right. There were better opportunities that were not taken, but I think, we're down to like a less than 5% chance
of them winning.
Of them, I think kind of, to be honest.
No,
unless
I don't
they
agree.
can.
Definitely.
You think it's more? Well, actually, he's Jake's your winner pick, but
yeah, I mean, like he shouldn't on an edit. Firstly, anyone keeping track of the draft? I still have all 3 of my picks. Omar, you know the last time this happened? Yeah.
well, it didn't end well.
It did not end well. It went immediately with Omar, Romeo, and Lindsay. Didn't even make the top 2 picks, so Chappelle got to win the draft, even though he had the grenade. It went immediately terribly. I have Jake, Drew, and Austin left. From an edit perspective, I definitely see it. And even from a just kind of falling into the win, I can see it. I just don't think they'll control it. The odds of them controlling it, like a 1%. The odds of it derailing to the point where they benefit without it being on their terms and it's dicey for them, and then they fall ass backwards into it maybe, or passively brought along. I can see that.
I feel like it would be really hard for them to win on, because the thing is, like, look, Bello is making up most of the jury up until now, and I think the people that enter the jury the earliest do set the tone.
There's literally no Reba yet on the jury.
Yeah, there's like, they set the tone for the culture of the jury, I guess. And I think that the culture of the jury so far has been Bellows going home at the hand of other Bellows. I think a lot of those Bellows will be like, we should have taken out Reba, and both of you were complicit in us turning on each other. How can we respect that from like a game perspective? So I think that unless we have somebody making like major flops and towards this end of this game that results in the Rebas getting to the end, but like completely flubbing it, I think that's the only way they could win and from a passive perspective. But I just don't even see that happening at this point. Like, could you imagine you're like being a Bello and seeing how Jake and Katurah help get you out against their best interests? Like, in what world?
Caleb's the one person who will. Yeah, I mean, but they were voting for Jake. Like, it's hard to say, like, pretty hypocritical from the Bello jurors if that's what they're going to do when they were doing that too. Right. Also turning against each other and making things impossible. Well, I mean, Katurah has. Kelly, but... yeah, well, I mean, yeah, Kelly voted against Jake, right? Like,
that's
and
but
Kelly didn't vote against
votes.
Drew.
Right.
They had what?
Well, but when Kelly went home, there were some votes that were out of play. Like Bruce's vote was important. I think.
Yes, it was hard for all of them, but they all still
were part of that.
They all still didn't get it done. And they all did turn on each other at points, and they didn't take their shots at Reba, including Kelly in the split tribal at Drew, and Kendra was part of that as well. They all have something to speak to. It'd be pretty hypocritical to be like, you're the reason Bello screwed up. Like, let's all
juries are never hypocritical.
Maybe it's all your fault because and look, Coutura enabled Reba the most of the Bellows, but like they all had their part to play. It's interesting because now if they sit together, they'll definitely be with at least one Reba. So then it becomes, if you think that culture is how could you let a Reba get here, then there is no shot for them because there's going to be a Reba, depends which Reba maybe, but that's now going to become a culture war on the jury across.
They have to go with Drew though, right?
Underdog, Austin, I think now. Austin or Drew?
Yeah, Drew or Austin. Yeah, Austin or Drew. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that you could paint if you call him JT, you know, like, but not Token Teens JT. Now we're getting to Heroes versus Olympic Game Changers JT. We could talk about that. So, and that becomes, is it not the right Reba? If they're not going to get the Reba credit, are they angry at Reba versus like this underdog narrative that Katurah and Jake could speak to? Should we do plugs, Scott? Hour and a half only. I feel like well done us, Omar, because there was so much. My head is still spinning, and I hope any of this made sense. Ooh, yes. Okay, my thing. Here are the plugs. Weekly check-in. Survivor UK has been firing on all cylinders. Omar mentioned it earlier. Oop, now it's big. So Rob and I made our check-in open for all the non-patrons, also doing recaps with George every week, also doing X interviews, also spoke to the executive producer and creative director. We're at the height of Survivor UK, everyone. You should all be watching it. If you're a patron, it's quite easy to watch it. It's also on Template in Australia, BBC in UK. So good. Watch it. Catch up with the coverage, please. Moving on. Exit interview with Emily tomorrow. That's going to be a big one. I've got questions. So Rob will be doing that from NOLA, where he is now. Amazing segue. He's in New Orleans. And there's going to be the NOLA It Alls. That rolls off the tongue. The live show, which should be available tomorrow. And then the know-it-alls. This is, I think we're meant to be the know-it-alls.
We're
and
the know-it-alls.
Going to be a know-it-alls this week. So what are we? But
the don't know-it-alls.
Exactly. Robin and Stephen will talk about this in a couple of days, and Stephen can talk about maybe how much of JT Austin has become. The Amazing Race episode 11 recap coming up soon. Suits, Rob's still doing that every day. God only knows how. I know, I've always questioned that myself. I literally think I asked him. Patrons, so many things. Community's great. Live show, people are at it right now. Access to international Survivor and reality shows, big one. People ask me all the time. That's literally your best bet. Patron exclusive podcasts like the one I just said got unlocked, and more patrons. I think that's it. Oh, nope. Follow us at Rob Has a Podcast, at RHAPgrams. So much stuff going on. I saw the Rob Has a Podcast Twitter account posting about how Dee and Austin are going to do it. And I agree. No, I don't think I should say that on a podcast. Now it's only just me. And also, I regret saying that. But Dee and Austin, you do what you want. I want you to be together forever. Like, I see the chemistry. And I've said this is like my Roman Empire. I'm like obsessed with them. But if they're not together, it will hurt me deeply. As much as a, non-plurality vote that people don't come over the top of a broken vote for.
I like your couple's name for them, Destiny.
I actually got it from a Twitter comment. Now I've taken it. But it's so good. So good. Omar, what's happening with you?
Well, what about Chizzy points?
Oh, Chizzy points.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my, see how my head is made? We didn't even do the Chizzy points?
Outrageous. I thought you were going to take this opportunity away from me, even though
no. Oh my God, for the chat, can you imagine if I had done that? Thank God for you. Oh my God. See, I told you that this episode has me spinning. I doubt all the strategy I've been talking about. I've probably been talking like tongues. Okay. Give your points, Omar.
Okay. Well, okay. I don't know. Okay. So my 3 and 2 are very easy, but is it
none of these points were easy, I felt.
No, I felt the 3 and 2 were easy for me. But the 1 is the one where I wanted to hear what you had to say before deciding between two.
I'll give my points. I'll give my points. I mean, when I say not easy, it's like everyone did something wrong.
Yes,
right?
That's fair. Yeah.
No one was perfect, but there's things you can find. 3 points to Dee. We've spoken through it. Influence, reading things the best. She should have split the vote. Some miscommunication things with the number 1. Still feel like she got what she wanted the most. She came back and through, I think, like actually actively doing things. She wanted Emily out and it happened. I'm going to give 2 points to Drew. Tough one in terms of like, is losing Emily great for him? Probably not, but it's a concession I feel he made. Like if he wanted to split the vote, it's something he could have done. Like he's working with Austin here and trying to be like congenial with his ally in that. I still felt he won the vote against the other, in breaking Reba. He got those relationships. He's back on track with Jake. It seems, at least for now. And yeah, I think that he did like a lot of good work. He won immunity in terms of like actually getting it done. And then I'm going to give a point to Julie. Like she's in a terrible spot. Obviously, but obviously I kind of feel like she might be gone next, but she saved herself. I think it was right to keep the idol. I think that I'm like, she pretty much got like unanimously voted out, but she did save herself. I don't put so much of why she was a target on her. I think she's just very threatening. I agree with going with Emily over Austin. So there's things I agree with there. I couldn't give to Austin because of all the question marks, and I feel like he's
in love.
Yeah, so worst game position. He gets love points, but not Chizzy points. And then Emily obviously not. Katurah and Jake, like coming out of it, I was like, Katurah and Jake, like they're gonna get like Reba have broken apart. Like, but then when I realized it was on Reba's terms and how much more they should have done, I obviously could not do that. So those are my points. What are you doing?
Okay. So your points, you'll be thankful that for the sanctity of the Chizzy, your points do not affect mine because I thought you were going to go in a different direction. Oh. So Dee, obviously 3 points, winner of the Chizzy this week, 100%, because she got what she wanted. She got it through an incredible read and very good relationships. And at the end of the day, she maybe made some mistakes, but I don't think they were outweighed by, her good gameplay at the end of the day because she got what she wanted. And part of that is results oriented, but also, I can't be too picky, especially because the reason that she was able to obtain the information to change the game to her benefit was because of her own skills. So I have to give 3 for that, 100%. Mm-hmm. 2, I'm going to give to Julie because I think that Julie, she kept the idol and that ended up paying off quite well. And I think even more than just having a good enough relationship with Dee and a read on Drew to be thinking that he was a bit suspicious was the fact that even with that information of what Dee brought to her, she thought outside of the box and maybe I should turn this on Austin. And I thought that was that's a level I think that a lot of players don't go to. And she was able to do that and at least think through all her options very carefully and not just be somebody that takes being on the bottom and like lets it be. She's trying to, like you said, upset, like, or actually like Jake said, upset the apple cart a bit. Like, is it really upsetting the apple cart to just take out Emily? She thought maybe Austin. And I like that thinking when you're at the bottom, you have to disrupt the game.
Yeah. But she did. She just needed to just tell them about the
yes.
but the intention was there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the last point was the one that I was going to just give the opposite point to for you between Jake and Katurah. So if you gave one to one, I would give one to the other one, but you didn't. So now I have to choose.
Yeah.
I have to choose. So in terms of Katurah, like she hasn't been on the block. She's kind of, integrated herself into Reba, even though she's at the bottom and kind of at their mercy. But she stepped up and said, this week I want to actively play and make the moves I want to make and take the risks, which and the thing is, I can't fault her too much for the end result of like the split and stuff like that and not going for D or not going for Austin, because we didn't see her in any of those conversations. Like to me, I think the way that I read that was she was probably in the confessional while they were doing this last minute scrambling and it was right before tribal.
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of the read that I took.
Conversations yesterday. We've been talking about this for a long time.
Julie, we didn't know Julie was going to be playing.
Julie.
They didn't know that Julie was like, I don't think they knew that the situation was getting upset to that point where Julie is now thinking she's on the outs or whatever. But I agree. I think in general, I agree. In general, she should have done something else. But like, as when she had, I think everybody else had the information and we didn't see that she did, but she may have. But from what I saw, I can't fault her too much because we don't know. And then with Jake, like he's been at the bottom as well. And he had some of the information to make a different choice. But I think what I really liked about Jake was his awareness of, I was, the tree. He's tired of being the tree. And he knows that there's a stepwise progression to becoming the leading role. And I think that is a bit more game awareness than Katurah's position has been, where it's been like, I think she hasn't necessarily realized she was in the supporting role to some extent until this week. And so I think I will give it to Jake, but I could see it breaking either way.
Yeah, tough week for the Chizzy. A lot of intricate decisions that I hope we've spoken through. Okay, it's making sense to me, but I'm also a little delirious. I almost forgot to do the Chizzy. So the charts, Drew's on 27.
That's your whole thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm literally wearing a Chizzy shirt. I forgot to do the Chizzy.
I should have brought my mug. Damn.
Yeah, well, okay. Drew's leading 27. Emily goes home, on 23. So she won't be winning the Chizzy, unfortunately.
Wow, that was so close.
Yeah, and Austin's on 19. Now Julie's on 15. Andy is on 15, winning the Chizzy this week. Caleb left on 8. Katurah's on 6. Kelly left on 5. Sabaya left on 5. Jake has gone up to 3 now. Bruce left on 2. Kendra left on 2. Jemiah left on 2. Those are the charts. We did the Chizzy. We're done now.
Is Drew the lockout winner then?
No, because there's 12. Like Austin could get 12 points. Drew could get nothing.
Shoot. Right. Austin.
Yeah, and actually, D and Julie can at best tie with Drew.
So okay. Oh, I thought he had 28. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Okay, so pretty much he'd have to pretty much be voted out next time, and Austin would have to like play the most perfect next 2 weeks, or D or Julie play the most perfect next 2 weeks, vote him out next week.
What happens in a tie for whoever goes further in the game?
No, I've never thought about it. I just would give them both mugs, Chizzy winners.
Oh, I would have said the person that had the higher placement, but you do.
All right, well, let me know what people think should happen in a Chizzy tie. It's actually something I've literally never thought about it that I can think of. Maybe I have.
We could be getting a tie. We don't know. That's exciting. Yeah. I'm kind of rooting for that.
I would want to give 2 Chizzy mugs, but if someone else has a better suggestion, if you like Omar's better, let me know. Thank you all. Thank you to the chat. Thank you for being here with Squid Game, the finale on. That means a lot to me. Did you see my text? Just an hour and 40 minutes into this, my brother texted and said, that he watched Squid Game thinking that Zach actually was on it. That's what he wants. He's like, that's 10 hours of my life I'll never get back, but it's actually pretty good.
Wait, that's so embarrassing. I thought that was, I didn't realize that was your brother. I thought that was Jason from Survivor South Africa.
What?
Yes.
No, you didn't. His name in my phone is Jason Brochacho.
I didn't read the last name. I thought, that's a last name I don't recognize. It must be the other Jason.
A pretty early boot from Survivor South Africa who's I've had no conversations with. Actually, I have. I messaged him once to say congrats on a wedding photo, and he's like, this is from years ago. I'm like, well, I don't know.
It makes it even better that it's your brother, Jason. Okay.
Of course, it's my brother. Anyway, he watched Squid Game. Thank you for the people who have not watched Squid Game or listened to this after the fact. We appreciate you. It's been a long podcast. I'm sorry, Rob. I can't help it. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to our team, Scott behind the scenes. Thank you, Omar.
And Carson. Carson's in the chat. Hi.
Oh, hi, Carson. Thank you all. And Rob will see you soon. Bye.